Welcome to A Diary of a Daddy-O, episode 6. This is a special one. I'm joined by Nevine from Playdate, who's going to talk to us about her new business, funding she's just secured, and plans for the future. So stay tuned and listen to A Diary of a Daddy-O. Hello, Nevine.
Hi, David.
How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. Thanks for joining us. So a quick bit of housekeeping to start. Brad couldn't make it today, co-host of the poddy. He's actually, in the nature of the podcast, Diary of a Daddy-O, he's very busy with his work and dad duties down south, so he couldn't make it. So apologies to the listeners if you were looking forward to hearing Brad's voice, but you've got just me. So Nevine, I'll hand you the mic to start with. Tell me your background, how you came to start Playdate, and maybe a little bit about what Playdate actually is.
Sure. My name is Nevine. I'm originally from Egypt, so I'm British Egyptian. Come from quite a different culture, actually. And I became a single mum, got divorced in 2016. I've got a 9-year-old boy. And the idea really came about because it's been very difficult to meet people.
Mm-hmm.
I run my own business, previously to Playdate, which is a marketing agency. So I do understand what it means to run a business and be a parent.
Yeah.
But then I just couldn't meet anyone. My friends tried to get me into the dating game again, downloaded all of the dating apps, and they were just all pretty crap.
Okay. Yeah, you can say that, yeah.
And the thing is, the moment you say you've got kids, people just like, oh, right, that's too much commitment, or they, just run away or never call you back or ghost you. And to go on a date as a single parent, like I've got no family here, any support, so I've got to pay a sitter, right? So it's a costly thing going on a date. So you want to make it worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
So I always had this idea to create a dating app just for single parents.
Yeah.
So during lockdown, I overnight lost all of my business. So my business was a marketing agency, mainly in the event space.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine that everything stopped overnight. Lost my business, was homeschooling my then 7-year-old child, which was not very fun, as most parents would know. And then I just had all the time in the world to create Playdate.
Yeah.
The name came to me instantly. It's something parents will relate to, but this is a play on words, and it's more of a adult Playdate.
Yeah.
And it just took off from there. So I spent a year of lockdown creating the app. We launched in April 2021. Bootstrap business, convinced my family, friends to put in some money, used all my savings, and just put it all into Playdate.
Wow.
And it's been growing ever since. We've got about 10,000 users organically, and now we've just closed our first fundraising round.
Congratulations.
Really exciting. Thank you very much.
Big day for you today.
Big day.
Celebrating with a glass of water.
Yeah. And being on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm being on the Daddy-O podcast.
Yeah.
So it sounds brilliant. I mean, I've never been on the dating apps myself, but I can imagine that being a pretty big problem in terms of the baggage that may come for certain people that are on these dating apps that are after maybe one thing rather than another. So I think the actual idea itself is brilliant. I think that the name, and we'll put a picture of the logo and stuff as well. I think it's nice. The branding's really cool.
Thanks.
You said you got 5,000 active users now, have you?
So we've got 10,000 users, but 5,000 of them are active.
Brilliant.
Which means that they're engaging with the app.
Yeah.
So this investment we've raised is mainly going to be going into growing that user base and really expanding within the UK.
Okay.
But we've got a nice split of single mums and dads, and it's really nice to see people put up pictures of themselves with their kids. We're usually on dating apps. You've got people flexing their muscles and that kind of thing. Where this is more of a civilized approach to dating, and it's nice because everyone's got that shared experience of being a parent.
Sure.
So I think it works quite well.
Yeah, really good. In terms of like the users, where are they in the UK distributed? Is it London?
They're all over. I mean, we initially launched it to be London focused, but we've got people from everywhere downloading the app, like Wales, Scotland, Ireland, North, South.
Wow.
Which is quite interesting. But yeah, obviously we've got to put our efforts into the main cities to really grow that database. But it's really all over. It's widespread.
Brilliant. Have you got any success stories so far? Have you been sent messages being like, we're now married with another kid, or
not yet? We've tried. It's really hard because the thing is with single parents. So one of our kind of main features on the app is an invisibility feature.
Okay.
So being a parent, obviously you're very conscious and have to be careful about protecting your kids. You've got a family. You can't really be that public about your love life.
Yep.
So for example, I would never want my ex-husband to see me on the app or to know what I'm up to or to know if I'm seeing anyone. So there's not only is there baggage, but there's also that kind of trauma and maybe past relationships that might be toxic, or you don't want really people finding out that you've started a new relationship. So if they've got something going well, it's been very hard to get people to share their stories.
Right, I see, yeah.
So maybe we'll throw in a free dinner for two or something, and maybe get them talking. But no, we haven't heard of any success stories as of yet. But it's a long game.
Yeah. So in terms of, I know you mentioned you've got your first round of funding secured today. What is the plans for the app in terms? I know you said you were looking to push new users, grow in the UK. Have you got any specific marketing plans or activities that are of interest to listeners?
Yeah, so we're aiming to get to 50,000 users within 6 months.
Okay.
And that's by using, marketing campaigns, mainly digital, growing the team. So it's, believe it or not, it's just been me this past couple of years.
Oh.
So we're just getting on a CTO, growing the team, having more optimization from a tech side of things. So the app works perfectly fine, but we'll be adding more features and really optimizing that tech so that it's ready to scale into other markets.
Okay.
And the plan is from next year to start looking at the US.
Right, okay.
That is the biggest market. So 23% of all single parents are in the US. Obviously, it's a big market, and it's a beast.
Yeah.
So we have to really put a lot into that to really be able to tackle that market. But that's our next big step.
In terms of, have you got any competitors out there? Obviously, the obvious Tinders and Bumbles and whatever else. Is there anything out there that's similar for parents? Is it like the old school ones, like is it Friends Reunited or Plenty of Fish or something?
So there's there's 1,400 dating apps and websites in the UK alone, just to give you a bit of statistics. That's a lot. When we launched, there was nothing for single parents out there dating. Okay. But since we've launched, we now have two competitors. So there's two other dating apps that are specifically for single parents as well. So that just shows you that there's potential in the market. But no one has really done it specifically. So on Match.com and Plenty of Fish, you can say you're a parent, but then it's not specifically catered to that. So with Playdate, for example, we've got a babysitting feature.
Okay.
So people can book a sitter or nanny on demand. So it's kind of, you've booked your date, you need someone to look after the kids, and they give everyone a discount on the app.
Right. So how does
that's an incentive.
How does that work through the app? Is there?
It's like it's integrated within the app. So you've got a section for babysitting, and you just click on it, and it takes you to Bubble, which is the dating app, the babysitting app that we're using, and that you just put in Playdate, and then it gives you a discount.
Wow. What is that? What's that discount for the listeners?
It's 10%.
10% discount. Very good, very good.
Yeah.
Is that a feature that's the users take up quite often? So like you said at the beginning, that actually, one, it's very costly to have to get a babysitter for every date you go on. Yeah,
that's correct. Well, we don't really have that. I would say about 20% have used it.
Okay.
That may mean that they've got help or they've got family that can look after the kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, so far about 20% I'd say use that.
Okay.
But I think it's a great feature. I mean, I would personally use that because I don't have in-house, support around my family to help out. So, yeah.
Brilliant. I mean, that sounds a very good feature. When you mentioned it to me on the phone when we had our conversation last week, I thought that was a really good, again, not that I've been an active user on these apps, but from when I've seen friends doing it, it's pretty simple. It's a swipe right or left, and that's as far as it goes. So having that feature in the app is brilliant.
Yeah, and we're quite proud to not have a swiping feature, so it's not swipe at all. So it's mainly you kind of request to chat with someone. So it's not very, because I hate the swiping. It makes me feel like you're being rejected. And it's purely based on looks, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So this is more of it works a bit like Facebook, where you request to chat with someone, or you send a friend request, and then you can start chatting with them.
Okay, cool. So the male can talk to the female, and the female can. It's not anything like the.
No, it's not like Bumble where it's woman first. No,
okay.
It can work either way. So
you mentioned as well that sort of the reason you made it was because of the pitfalls of the other apps and the users on there. How, in terms of your experiences on those apps, is there anything else that sort of you didn't like about those that made you go into Playdate and think actually there's more than just the fact that there's young people on these apps that don't really want to settle down? Was there anything else in terms of the usability of the app, or anything that actually thought there's a huge opportunity for me to make my own app here in Playdate?
I would say probably the filters.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't really care about height or colour of eyes or, that kind of thing, which I felt was very superficial and very, very just on the surface. And that's testament to what they are after, which is basically just some fun, nothing serious, nothing to really settle down. So on Playdate, the filters are very much about being a single parent. So it's kind of like, do the kids live with you or not? You know, do
Okay.
you have shared custody? Are you widow? Why are you a single parent? Are you widow? You could be widowed. You
Okay.
could be a solo parent.
Yeah.
So some women decide to have kids on their own. Are you separated, divorced? So it's more tailored around that. Are you
Yeah.
open to having more children? So I would love to have more kids.
Yeah.
So I'd love to be with another single parent who is looking to have more children. So you can filter based on that as well.
That's really good. Really
Yeah.
good.
So it's quite. So I didn't feel that any of the other dating apps really ask those questions.
No, I mean, they're pretty key questions that,
Yeah.
especially later on in life, that I'd imagine you'd need to ask a future partner of like quite quickly in your dating
Yeah.
scene to understand exactly where people's heads at, so you're not wasting time on dating someone that's completely not in the same headspace as you. So it's good that those sort of like questions will get you the people that are in the same sort of mindset as you.
Yeah.
So, really good. Is there anything you want to tell the listeners in terms of where they can like access Playdate other than the App Store or?
So it's an app only, so it's not website. So it's a web app only. You can find it on both App Store and Google Play.
Mm-hmm.
And I also wanted to just give a shout out to dads, because that's what your listeners are probably wondering why a woman's on this podcast today.
Yeah.
But I just feel like we always tend to celebrate women
Mm-hmm.
that work and do the whole work-life balance, and we don't really celebrate dads enough. You know, I'm not going to speak about my ex-husband, who's probably not the best dad.
Right. Okay.
But I know that there's a lot of great dads out there,
Yeah.
like yourselves, that are juggling running a business and also being a parent. And single dads especially, some of them are, you know, they've been widowed
Mhm.
or they take care of the kids full time for
Yeah.
whatever reason, and also running a business. So I just feel like they're not celebrated enough, and they
Well,
should
yeah.
be celebrated.
Brilliant. I appreciate that, because that's obviously the main reason
Yeah.
why myself and Brad started this podcast. Was we've both been self-employed or running businesses. For myself for 10 years, Brad, I think he's been in and out of businesses now for like probably a similar amount of time, a little bit younger than me. Brad had his first child about 6-7 months ago. I'm Brody's now 3 months
Aw.
for me. So like, as soon as you James mentioned the app and stuff, I was like, I spoke to Jess, my wife, and was like, I could not imagine how hard it would be to try and manufacture the time to try and meet a new partner with the situation that I'm in currently, with a really supportive wife, newborn, running a business,
Yeah.
all the stresses and the plates that are spinning. I was like, I don't know.
There's literally no time.
Yeah, and I mean, if this app is obviously designed to try and help find the time and make use of being efficient with the timing. So I think like, a great idea, really efficient.
Thank you.
Which is good. I love efficiency. So if
Yeah.
I was single, I'd be very impressed by the app, and I'm sure I'd be on it. But yeah, I think we'll leave it there for part 1. Stay tuned, guys. In part 2, we'll discuss a few more things about the app. So stay tuned. So welcome back to part 2 of A Diary of a Daddy-O. I'm still joined by Nevine. We're going to get in the second half discussing why Nevine started Playdate when her back was up against the wall. So stay tuned. Welcome back, Nevine.
Hello.
So we discussed a little bit off air there, sort of the sort of main reasons why you started Playdate, other than just Tinder and everyone else being shit and rubbish. So you mentioned that maybe you had some problems juggling running your own business and finding the time to meet a partner, but also there was a few other things that came up that maybe sort of made you resilient, in the sense that you were like, no, I'm going to fight back and I'm going to create something that belongs to me, and I'm going to show the world that I can do something. So do you want to explain that story again for me?
Sure. I mean, my family and friends will say this about me, and I can proudly say I'm a very stubborn person. I don't like being told no. So as I mentioned earlier, my previous business, which was a marketing agency, collapsed overnight during lockdown. I had no income for about a year. I know everyone struggled during lockdown, but for me as a single mum, it was particularly hard because I had no financial support, not even from government, or because I was self-employed, so there was no furlough.
Yeah.
I wasn't eligible for any of those grants because I didn't make enough money that year to be in that threshold. So I really got nothing.
Yeah.
My family back home in Egypt were very much pushing me to come back home. So I was I found myself literally against the wall. And I started planning Playdate. And while I was doing that with no income and homeschooling, I got unfortunately scammed, bank scam. So basically they called me on the phone, and I consider myself a smart person, but I don't know how I fell for this. they called me from the bank number. So they did what they call spoofing. And they basically said that there's been a lot of fraud on both my business and personal accounts. And they've asked me to transfer all the money into new accounts that they had set up. It seemed very legit. They told me all my transactions that I had done that day. They had all my security details. And I basically transferred all of my savings, money, and overdrafts into this new account, apparently under my name. And it was only until they mentioned Playdate, which I had opened a different bank account for, that I realized it was a scam. I had a complete mental breakdown, and it really felt like financial rape, if I can say that.
Yeah.
The bank wouldn't refund my money for 9 months. They said I was responsible for identifying the caller.
Right.
Took them to the financial ombudsman. And throughout this time, obviously, I was a complete mess at my lowest point, completely alone. And my family, there was a lot more pressure to say, what other signs do you need to just pack up and come home?
Yeah.
And at that point, I was determined to commit to Playdate and just make it a success.
So what was it that sort of made you say, even when you were at that lowest point, which obviously I've owned my own business as well, I've been through many tough moments in business when our warehouse burnt down and things like that.
Gosh.
What was it that made you say, no, I'm going to put the flag in the sand and go for this, even when, like you said, parents at home were saying, come home, just leave it now, like, we'll look after you. What was it? What do you think that driver was? Was it the fact that you had a child, or what do you think it was that made you push on?
I think the fact that I'm not a quitter and that I didn't want to give in. For me, moving back would mean failing in a way. And also, I mean, as much as I love my home country, living there and working there, and there's not much opportunity.
Yeah.
So the thought of me, I couldn't picture myself with my son at that stage in my life, moving back home and just starting over. That was just not an option for me.
Yeah.
So I was just determined, and I could see the life I was giving my son in the UK, and it was just, I couldn't change that, and I wanted to give him the best opportunities in life, and yeah, I think that was the main driver.
So on a slight lighter note, after the adversity there, as always on the Diary of a Daddy-O, we asked the parents to give us a tip or a hack that made their life easier when they had their newborn. So if you can think back to 9 years, what would one bit of advice be to our listeners that made your life slightly easier? I'll give you some examples that we've had. Brad mentioned pre-scooping out your formula into little pots so you don't miscount in the middle of the night. Sean said get a Tommy TP bin for the nappy so you're not constantly going out to the bin. Just a small little hack that made your life easier at the time.
I don't know if this is appropriate to say. I don't know if I can say this.
We can cut it if it's not.
Yeah. So one of the hacks, and this is more for the women, when you're trying to get them from breastfeeding into bottle feeding, my son was really stubborn, and I went back to work quite quickly after 5 months.
Okay.
And he would refuse to take any bottle. He would wait for me for 8 hours to come home from work and just like basically eat me alive. So I found this really cool, I forgot the brand, but it's a really cool bottle with the thing, with the shape of a breast of a boob.
Okay.
And he just fell for that instantly, and it was really, really great. But I'll remember the brand and send you
the link over. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a good hack if you're having difficulty getting your child to go from breast to bottle. It's a good hack.
Brilliant. I think I remember seeing.
They look ridiculous.
Yeah, meet the parents or meet the Fockers.
Yeah.
I think he had it, didn't he? Craig's dad. I think. Yeah, send it over. We'll put it in the description for any dad that wants to wear a breast bottle thing and do that. But we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Nevine, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Again, apologies that Brad couldn't be here. Yeah, we'll have to get you back on in 12 months and see how the app's going and see whether you hit those 50,000 users and yeah, hopefully some of our listeners will join. We'll put all the social links, the app downloads in the description, so anyone that wants to go and download it, they can. Any questions on the app or they want to get in touch with you directly, we'll put your email on there as well if that's all right.
Absolutely, no
Perfect.
problem.
Well, yeah, thanks very much, guys, and we will be back on episode 7 with another special guest. So we'll see you then, and take it easy.